Hey, welcome back. We're going to go ahead and start tightening up this track that we have created. If you've been following along with the tutorial, we have made a template and created a little bit of a track, learned how to mix it down, and gave it a very, very basic master. Just something to get it out of your computer and get it into your phone or send it to a friend or wherever you're trying to get to it. This time we're going to go ahead and start and looking at how to tighten up the tracks to make them sound even better than they are. So today we're going to be doing that with this audio bend tool. And so we're going to go ahead and get started into it. I'm going to pick this one track just to kind of expand and bring down to give as an example. And if you go on this ruler up top and you click, hold, and drag it down, it expands the track itself. And if you click up or hold and push up, it shrinks it back down. So that might be useful to you, and it will be useful to me today. I'm going to give the example on this one track here, and then I'll, zoom through the rest so you don't have to be bothered with all of the extra nonsense that we'll go through with the rest of these tracks. So I'm going to do it on this track. Then I'll go through each of these on my own and tighten each of these up. And that will be it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the track just by clicking the bottom half of it. So it highlights the whole thing. And we're going to go to the audio bend options. And to see the bend markers, there's a little eyeball that changes the color of the track, and that is what you want to do. And we are looking for the transient. So the transient of a note is the high point. And if you look really closely, if you zoom in, the high point should be as close to the timing as possible, which is up here on this ruler. Some people like it very tight, other people don't. I'm kind of like in between with it. Now, there are a handful of ways that you can do this. You can click on mode detection and have standard or sensitive. I choose standard, and you will analyze to bring up bend markers. Now, for me, typically, I kind of look through the track a little bit and see if there's any double markers, like this one here. And we'll scroll down a little bit, see if there's any more. It looks like there's two very closely together here. Yep, and there is. Okay, so we'll go in and remove those in just a moment. But there's a threshold underneath, and that tells the computer how many of these bend markers you want on the track. So if you bring it down, you see the number of them is going away. And if you bring it up, they come right back. I'm going to keep mine at about 80. In the time stretch track group section, we're just going to keep it on drums. We're going to make sure the guide is our guitar left main, no group. And then on the action side, this is where you can quantize your track, which is where if you want it like right on the dot everywhere, and you're confident that your bend markers are in the right spots, if you hit apply, and I'll do it and I'll go back and redo on that. So if you apply it, it's going to make sure each of the notes, wherever the bend markers were, are lined up on the grid, which is what these lines are. We call it the grid. I don't necessarily like doing it that way because I tend to get artifacts. So I'm just going to go through manually and do it. And the way we do it manually is we're going to find our bend tool up in the corner. Top left in your row of stuff, there's one that's labeled bend tool. We're going to attach that. And we're going to go through this track extra big. And if you hover over one of these bend markers, the symbol changes. That means you can move the bend marker. Anywhere else, if you were to tap, it would create a new one. And to get rid of it, you double tap when you're hovering over it. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to keep, for the most part, I'm going to keep my toggle snap on so that when I move one of these bend markers, it goes right next to where the note is supposed to be. So we're trying to get the transients right on the money, as close as we can with each of these timing numbers up top. So the way we do that, we're going to hover over it. We're going to click it and hold it, and it's going to move itself. And you'll be able to see that there's a green and there's a red. Green means that the sound quality is very good, and red means that it's starting to stretch it. If it's very dark red, you've probably gone too far and need to go back and redo that. So we're going to just grab a couple of these and make sure that they're right on the lines. As we go. So this track gets really, really tight on the grid. And we're going to go right up until we get to this double. So what I would do, if there's a double line here, I would hover over the first one that's not near the transient, double tap and remove it, and then move the one that is on the transient. And we're going to continue to do that all the way down the line until this track is very tight on the grid. And make sure to keep an eye that it is lining up with your numbers up top. So that everything stays in time. And if you've done a good enough job recording, you should already be pretty close to your timing. Here we go. Only a few more, and then we go right back to, see, we got a double line here again, and I can't really reach it without messing the other one up, so I'm going to expand a little more. Remove that one. Bring it back in. And tighten this one to the track. Bring this one, and this one. Okay, and that is one full track. So we have to listen to it to make sure that all of our notes are where they're supposed to be. If there's something that sounds strange, at least you can go back and check which ones they may have been. So I'm going to turn on my follow just for this one track so I can keep an eye. I'm going to have my mouse hovering over this follow auto scroll so that if there is a transient that I need to remedy, then I can just click it off and my screen will stay right where it is, and I can fix that transient and come back to it again. So we're going to hit play and hear the track. Soloed. So that sounded a bit funny to me, so we're going to go back. We're going to turn our click on and listen to it with the click. And that one here I'm not really liking, so I'm just going to hold and remove it. And then let it come back around. Okay, and I'm pretty satisfied with that. So the next step of this, remove our solo. We're going to go back to our main tool here, our arrow tool. we're going to highlight this entire thing. We're going to right click and we're going to bounce this selection. Now all of our bend markers are stuck on the track. So be happy with your track before you do that. So now I'm going to go through each of these tracks and tighten each of them, and then we'll play the song again. We do not need to do this on the drums if we stuck to the grid when creating the drums. Also the same for MIDI. If you stuck to the grid when you were creating your MIDI, there's no need to go back in and improve the bend markers because they should already be attached to the grid. So I'm going to skip the drums and go right into the vocals. See these little sneaky doubles here. Very hard to see unless you expand. Okay, and that is the final one. We're going to go ahead and bounce that one down. Bounce. It's not perfect, but it is a lot better now. Shrink that back up. And a fun little trick. If you just tap solo, it gets the 1. But if you tap and hold and then drag it down, you can remove all of them at the same time. Same thing happens when you do with the mute. So you can just adjust it that one time and drag down and get them all there at the same time. All right, so since all the bend markers are done, we can turn off our audio bend tool. And we can listen to the track after it has been tightened up. So let's hear it. I would have wished you well, but I don't think you believe me. All right, and I think that's going to be it for today. So I will see you guys in the next video. Good luck with your audio bend tool, and we'll meet back here next week.